discuss regarding development. Okay. Now see, the sequence of changes that occurs in the structure and functioning of an organism, that itself is called development. Now, in case of plants, if we have to see, there are various types of developmental stages like seed germination, then of course seedling formation, juvenile phase when the plant would grow primarily or as per the height, then maturation, plant will show secondary growth or else it will grow as per the girth, and then flowering, it will enter the reproductive phase, so flowering, seed formation, senescence means aging, and finally death. Now you might be thinking that it is a straight pathway and there is no here and there to it, right? But then not always the cells of the plant will show a straight pathway of development. They may show some kind of flexibility to the pattern, like for example is this. See, meristematic cells, some of them will continue to divide, whereas some of them will get differentiated and become permanent cells and eventually undergo senescence and death. Isn't it? Just like this. These meristematic cells, they are showing plasmatic growth and eventually they are again getting back to the meristematic state to divide again, right? But not all of the meristematic cells will show this pathway. Some of them will get differentiated, that means they will undergo expansion and maturation and give rise to a permanent or mature cell, and of course then this mature cell eventually undergo aging or senescence and finally death. Right? So in that case, the same meristematic cell is either continuously dividing or else it is meeting senescence, it is becoming a mature cell, meeting senescence and finally death. So that means in the developmental pathway, there can be a lot of flexibility sometimes which can be present. Developmental pathways are not always straight in nature, right? So that keeps you, or that gives you a particular term that's called plasticity. Okay, so plasticity itself means flexibility in the developmental stages of the organism. Like the ability of a plant to follow different pathways and produce different structures in response to the environment itself is called plasticity. Now, to understand plasticity well, you have a particular example given, and that is heterophyly. Heterophyly is the ideal example for understanding plasticity. Now, what is heterophyly? Heterophyly is the phenomena of appearance of different forms of leaves on the same plant. So, in response to different environmental conditions or different type of growth pattern happening in the plant body, when two different appearances occurs in the plant, that is called heterophyly. Two different types of leaves mainly will arise in the plant body, that is called heterophyly. Okay. Now, this heterophyly can be observed in certain plants like cotton, coriander, larkspur, etc. For example, in larkspur, you can see in the juvenile phase the plant has a leaf like this, whereas as soon as the plant would become mature or adult, the leaves will convert or transform into something else and they will take up an appearance like this. So this is an ideal example of heterophyly. Likewise, in buttercup, when the buttercup, the plant would be grown in a terrestrial habitat, the leaves will be like this. Whereas if the plant is going to be in an aquatic habitat, the leaves will be completely different and it will appear like this. So these are the examples of heterophyly, which is an example of plasticity. So I hope all of you are clear about the developmental stages or development part. Now next, let us discuss or go into the most important part of this chapter, and that is phytohormones or plant growth regulators.